everybody, Adrian Fuentes here. Did you know that the Democrats of Greater Tucson has a website, thedgt.org, and if you subscribe, it's only 20 bucks. You can support this great weekly communication where folks get together. Sometimes there's candidates, sometimes folks like me pop on to help understand what's going on in the world. The Democrats of Greater Tucson, thedgt.org. Join up today.
Well, everybody, we are so fortunate to have a wonderful candidate with us today. And she is running again against last year's candidate. You've seen a lot of commercials from both of them. I certainly like Kirsten's a lot better than Brand X. She's a mom, and you might know that from her commercials over the years. An environmental attorney and a former state legislator who has fought for years to restore funding to public schools, protect Arizona's natural resources, and make our communities safer. She's ready to take that fight to Washington to find common sense solutions to the challenges we're facing here in Arizona's 6th congressional district. What a wonderful phrase, a motto, common sense solutions. We love it, Kirsten, we love it. So thank you so much for coming today, and I'm sure we're just all biting on the bit to see you and hear from you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Joe, for what you've done, Mike, for what you've done, Pat. I know so many of you have been active and working on building up, and the Democrats of Greater Tucson, you all have thrown events for me over this past cycle, over last cycle, over my runs for the state legislature. I think actually that was my very first appearance as a candidate, was in that the old meeting place, the restaurant, with the Democrats of Greater Tucson. So thank you so much for what you do. And it sounds like DGT is getting stronger and stronger every single day. So here we are. We are 15 days out, everyone. It feels good. It's exciting. It's, of course, it's nerve-wracking. We all know what we want the results to be in 15 days. I think we've got a great shot at turning Arizona bluer than it is today, and the whole country blue with the election of Kamala and Tim Walz. But of course, we've got 15 more days to do everything we can to assure that outcome. I am actually sitting right now in a room in our campaign office. I don't know how many of you may have had a chance to visit us here. We're over on River Road, 2200 East River Road, Suite 121. I welcome you to stop by. And at this point, the rest of the office is full of volunteers. We've been very excited to have such an incredible turnout of people who are helping out the race. We've been having people coming in from all across the country. This weekend, I met people from Utah, from Massachusetts, from Washington, D.C., from California, all over Arizona, that are coming in and just volunteering to knock on doors, make phone calls, and help out candidates such as myself, but candidates truly up and down the ballot. So as I have been saying in my speeches, this is truly a battleground district in a battleground state. Votes from this district could very well determine, if we can keep the presidency in Democratic hands, if we can keep the Senate in Democratic hands, if we can flip the United States Congress, whether or not we can flip the Arizona legislature, whether or not we can flip the Arizona Corporation Commission, another important objective, as well as electing really strong and good candidates to things like our school boards, our county boards of supervisors. So it's been exciting to be a part of this and to be working not only on winning this seat, but also to be helping other candidates on the Democratic side up and down the ballot. You know, I think my message at this point is to make sure that we are getting out the vote. I think at this point, the messaging has been pretty clear. What we have been talking about is really answering the question to a lot of voters, you know, what is different about my race this time from 2022? And here are the 3 points that I make about that. First of all, we have an opponent who has shown his true colors, something that we did not have as tangible evidence last time, that this person is a MAGA enabler, somebody who has not been an independent voice for Southern Arizona. Juan Cisco Money has on most issues just sided with the MAGA extremists of his party, from supporting the MAGA extremists that they have running the US House to voting on extremist legislation. And that has been from voting to restrict abortion access, after cheering the repeal of Roe versus Wade. Just this morning, I was talking with other members of Congress about Cisco Money's additional votes and how harmful that they have been, from voting to restrict medication abortion to really harmful votes in terms of our veterans, from restricting their ability to access reproductive care to voting to restrict that access or even counseling services for reproductive rights at our Veterans Administration, to siding with Trump and the extremists to reject, you know, moving ahead on bipartisan solutions on issues of border security and immigration reform, something that is such a issue that has divided our country, and yet one that we know we need to work on, especially stopping the flow of fentanyl into our communities, making sure that we have the resources to process migrants at the border who are rightfully and lawfully claiming asylum, as well as making sure that we are providing humanitarian relief. So many important objectives in that department that Juan Cisco Money has absolutely rejected, kowtowing to Trump, who wants to keep that a crisis so that we're not able to fix our immigration system. To very radical bills in terms of budgets, to cutting the Social Security Administration, the Veterans Administration, money that would go to Pell Grants or SNAP benefits. This is not how we are going to support our communities that have been struggling, especially with high prices. Supporting repeal of the Inflation Reduction Act, which has been so critical in terms of bringing in resources here to build up our ability to transition to clean energy, to being able to negotiate for the price of prescription drugs and help families and seniors with those high costs. So one of the biggest differences in our race this time around from last time, when I lost this race very narrowly by just 5,232 votes, is that now we can show folks that Juan Cisco Money, who narrowly won, is not the moderate that he presents himself to be. He's been lining up with the extremists, and that extremism has made, you know, one of the most dysfunctional Congresses we have had in modern history. So when I go around this district and I talk to people about what they want action in helping them with the issues that we are facing here in Southern Arizona. You know, from better health care to addressing our water issues, to affordable housing. And instead of addressing these issues, we have a Congress led by extremists who have been spending most of their time tangling up legislation and preventing Congress from being able to address these issues. The second major difference is, you know, this time we have had the support of the National Democrats. Last time, as many of you know, the National Democrats invested in incumbents who were running for office in this state and not in challenger races, such as the race I was running here or was being run in CD1 up in Phoenix. Very different this time around. This has been a top priority for the National Democrats, and we really have been getting a lot of great support. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee has been helping us. The House Majority PAC has been helping us, and we've had wonderful support from so many organizations. Our unions, our labor unions have been just terrific, helping us financially as well as with our field campaign. League of Conservation Voters, Emily's List, the different organizations that have been supporting me as well as supporting Proposition 139, the Abortion Access Initiative, which is absolutely critical for us to pass and has been so vital in terms of raising the voices of so many who are fed up with the attacks and the abortion bans, including the one we have here in Arizona. The final reason why we're going to get it across the finish line this time is all of you. Just the tremendous outpouring of support that we have had and the tremendous field presence that we've been able to build up. So we have been working closely with the coordinated campaign. At this point, we are fully really integrated with the coordinated campaign. We're doing launches out of our office now. We did that over the weekend. We'll be doing that jointly together around the district as much as we can. And I think that is making a world of difference. We did not have that kind of field presence last time around that we do this time. So I don't want to spend my whole time talking. I think you all have heard me before, and I think I'd be much more interested in what your questions are at this point. We are just so close to the finish line here, and I want to thank all of you for giving me a second chance here, and a second chance for Southern Arizona, a second chance to pick up this seat, which very much could be one of the 4 seats that we need to flip Congress, and we are feeling cautiously optimistic about it.
I'm going to lead off with one. It's a little bit more of an observation. See, I'm curious to see what you think. I think from bottom to top, we have the best candidates at every level. And, one of the things about the Democrats of Greater Tucson is we get to meet these candidates in this format right here. And you can also meet them in person at the happy hours. So we are really fortunate to have a great lineup. And of course, Kirsten's right there at the top. Well, there's some others too.
We have terrific candidates. And Joe, I think that's a great point. We really do. We have people who are really committed, dedicated, have real experience, are talking about the issues. I think you're absolutely right. So it has been a true pleasure to be running with so many different candidates. And we have been trying to do joint things as much as possible so that we are able to elevate the voices, because we need a strong bench. We should be fielding candidates as much as we can for every open seat we can to get that kind of exposure. And it's been wonderful to see people really stepping up.
Amen. And I loved your spot in your emailing about your background as a forest ranger. Do you want to let the group know about that? I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, and it's been fun to talk about that. That was absolutely actually one of the best jobs I have ever had. I was able to be a seasonal National Park Service ranger, actually in Michigan, and it was incredible. And the National Park Service is full of really dedicated people, a lot of expertise out there. It was a hard job, actually. It was one where I had to create tours for the public and, talk about natural history, human history, with respect to a very new addition to the National Park Service. I ended up not doing it longer because I then went to law school, and I'm very glad that I did that. But I would strongly encourage people who are interested in the environment to consider such a role. It was a great experience and a great opportunity to communicate with the public.
Absolutely. Mike, do you have a question or observation?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions in the chat. So my first question is, what is the most important thing you can do right now to help your campaign?
Great question. Literally, the most important thing is to sign up for our volunteer events. Engelforarizona.com. There is a little blue button in the middle of the screen, says volunteer. If you hit that, what is brought up is all kinds of mobilized links. Those are our events for canvassing or phone banking. And at this point, folks, it is a turnout game.
Yeah.
I think people are eager to vote, but I know that there's a lot of people who are struggling with that very long ballot we have.
Yeah, 3
but
pages
so
of
many
propositions.
LDs have put together these great voting guides. I would hope people take advantage of that. But if people can promote our events, that is the most important thing. And I was out over the weekend. People are voting right now.
Absolutely. That was my follow-up is, do we have any read yet on our early vote participation? Are people returning ballots at an unusually high rate or low rate?
I am not privy to those numbers. Some folks in your shop might actually be doing that. I've been a little bit too busy with other things, so I haven't kept up with it. I'm just trying to, keep up the pressure on folks getting out there, knocking on doors. Today is a little bit cooler. I've heard it's going to get a little bit hotter later this week.
It may well,
So just doing that, being at the doors, helping people, get those ballots filled out.
We have a couple questions in the chat. Barbara Warren would like to know what international issues are concerning you, in addition to Mexico and immigration, obviously. And how would you address them should you become our next congressman, which I'm sure you're going to be?
Well, I'm very concerned about what's going on in the Middle East. I think we all are. And I am hoping, like probably many people, that the recent developments might provide an opportunity for us to seriously switch into getting a ceasefire deal done. And I think that's really the issue of the moment. I'm not, at this point, I don't have any real political power on that, but it's been a very, very hard issue for everyone. And I think we are all ready to, stop the violence, bring the hostages home, and turn toward putting together a real permanent peace, which has got to include a 2-state solution. So I would say that's the biggest issue. There's other concerns, certainly concerns about nuclear armament and build up on the nuclear side is very, very concerning. So I think that's all I'll say on that. But in the meantime, let's see if we can get there.
There's some interest in the chat around the local issues, the propositions that are on the ballot, 13 of them to be exact. Have you taken a position on any of them besides 139, which I know that you're definitely adamantly in support of?
Adamantly in support of. I think the advice of, I know some of our LDs that 139 is the one that deserves our yes vote. I have concerns about, just about all the rest of them. And I do see 140 has, I think, the most interesting. I think that there's a lot of good aspects about that. I have to say I'm very concerned about the role of the legislature in that Prop 140. having spent 5 years in the Arizona legislature, I really don't want them to have the role that they do under that proposition. So that does concern me. And of course, so much about Prop 314 concerns me as well. The one that puts the state into making a state violation about the entry into Arizona. So that very powerful arguments about the problems that would do, and certainly it is an unfunded mandate.
Oh yeah, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lucy Messihan has her hand up. Lucy, go ahead.
Thank you. I apologize for not having my camera on, but I didn't comb my hair. Anyway,
Okay, hey, hi, Lucy.
Well, we saw you all on TV.
oh, okay. Anyway, Kirsten, I know you're going to win Pima County big time, and that's going to be great. And I think the areas of concern last time were Cochise and Greenlee. And I know you've spent time there. How is that looking to you?
I really feel like there's a real shift going on in those districts. We have been getting a really very open reception, much stronger. There's really a lot of folks in those areas that are very fed up with what they're seeing in Congress. They are worried about the extremism that they are seeing, and they're looking for, a fighter on the issues that from rising costs to water issues. We had a town hall in outside of Wilcox in Pierce, Arizona, to talk about the water issues. And there are literally businesses, residences that have lost access to water and have had to invest thousands of dollars in order to deepen their wells. It seems like, the Republicans have, haven't really done anything to help these folks. It's been largely a state issue, but the state has, and I know that our state Democratic legislators have been working really hard on these issues. But I think they're going to need some pressure from the federal government. And I'd like to be part of helping with those solutions and helping to push the state to work on, just managing our groundwater. So that's just one issue, but there's, issues of, veterans services, very important issues. And here, Juan Cisco Money, voting to, just slash the funding for the Veterans Administration. How is that going to help anybody to get their benefits? Real issues of veterans health care, very, very high suicide rate that people just haven't been willing to talk about and really grapple with how we have been failing our veterans on those issues. So I think we're really just being available. We've really made it a high priority for my campaign to get out into the rural areas all over Cochise County, also up to Pinal County, Graham and Greenlee counties, to just listen to people, to be on the local radio show. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll do better in those areas. Of course, it's, we do have a high amount of partisanship, but I think people are listening to us, and they are sick of the extremes just like we are.
I have a question in the chat following on that water issue. Mary Gresham would like to know, what environmental issues would you like to get moving on in Washington?
Well, water is a top issue. Congress has not been able to pass a farm bill. It only comes up every 5 years. That farm bill actually does have an entire title that has programs for water conservation, soil conservation, things to help with agriculture, carbon sequestration. So that's an important priority. Certainly addressing climate change. We're all feeling the impacts of climate change. It's incredible that we're here in October and we're still dealing with these really high temperatures. So the costs are just immense. And it's not just Arizona. We're seeing what's happening with, double horrific hurricanes on the East Coast. So I do feel like people are finally realizing that the costs of inaction are just swamping the costs of action. And as I've always said, Arizona has so much to gain because of our solar energy resources. So looks like we are getting more and more of that investment from the Inflation Reduction Act. But certainly there is a lot more that we have to do, and we have to do it in an equitable way. We're not leaving people out. This can't just be big business coming in and making a killing on solar energy. We have to make sure that we are also bringing down utility bills and that everybody is participating in this clean energy transition. So lots of things that we can do on that, but making that transition into renewable energy, and we got to tackle those fossil fuel subsidies that are just all over the US code, because it's not a fair playing field right now, and it needs to be. And I think that the Corporation Commission candidates are very strong this year, and I think they've been making a lot of great points on that. I hope they're successful, and I hope to work with them while I'm in Congress.
Okay, James Stevenson has his hand up. James?
Thank you. Glad to have you here. I just had a couple observations about the voting. I'm contacting the Democrats in my community, and I'm finding a lot of anxiety about the voting, which is manifesting itself as people wanting to vote and get it in as soon as possible, which is a good thing. But if there are other people out there who are planning on contacting folks, I would say contact them as quick as possible to give an opportunity to get input on what they might have questions about, because there's just folks are wanting to get it done. I feel like I could have got a little faster start with my calling, and I'll be working on that as much as I can. The other thing on 140, there's a lot of interest in 140, and I think it could be close on that. And on the role of the legislature, I did have the thought that if this was going to come up at any time, this might be the best time, because the way I read that is the legislature has a role, but that means they're going to have to pass a law. Okay, so if it's not fair enough, then we have a chance to have a governor veto that. So if the legislature is stymied, then the proposal kicks it to the Secretary of State, who is a Democrat. So this might be a very fortuitous time to have this experiment relative to getting a good result. So that's all I have, but thank you very much for being here.
No, and those are very good. Those are very good points. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Mike, from the chat?
And I also want to comment on your concern. I know there has been sort of a big push, get your ballot in, because then people who are out in the field don't have to spend their time chasing after you. But we don't want that to be at the expense of people truly working through these issues and making sure that they're casting the vote in the manner that reflects their views. And something like 140, there's a lot of good in that. And so how people come down, I can see people coming down in different ways on that.
Okay, Susie Anderson has the question. How are you doing on time, Kirsten?
Nobody's
Okay,
leaking.
this is a quick one.
Okay.
Okay.
Probably just a few minutes.
Okay. Are you still teaching at the university? And is the university turning out more climate change lawyers at the university so that we can work on that legally? Thank you.
I am still a faculty member. I am on an unpaid political leave right now. I've been that since the end of June. Even last year, I took a reduced FTE to accommodate running for this race. This is not a something where you really can do justice to students. At the same time, running for office. So I'm grateful that I was granted the leave, and we'll see what happens with the election if I need to ask for a more permanent leave. In the meantime, at least the U of A has I believe, a very strong environmental law program. There's a lot of interest that our program works very closely with the Indigenous Peoples Law Clinic and their program. So there's been a big emphasis in terms of the environment and protecting natural resources, respect for native lands and native peoples in terms of that protection. So there is a lot of support and a lot of interest in addressing climate change. So I think the answer is yes. And I'm very lucky to have been to be part of that at the University of Arizona. It's what brought me here to this wonderful state, and hope to be able to work with them in whatever capacity as things go
Great.
forward.
Well, we have 2 hands up. Quick questions, gentlemen. Bill and Larry, be ready to go. Bill?
I'm ready. Kirsten,
Go for it.
first of all, thank you for answering my question already about Cochise County. I'm really happy to hear that we may be making some progress there. We're not going to win Cochise County, but narrowing that margin makes all difference in the world in my mind. That goes true for almost all rural counties in the state. So again, thank you for that. The other thing I was going to comment on is that I have already mail voted. And I would certainly just reiterate what you already said and encourage everybody to get those mail ballots in. And once you get your mail ballots in, the Pima County Recorder's Office has a great system for tracking your vote and until such point as it goes over to the elections office. And I think that's good. And it also shows in there the total number of votes cast, et cetera. So, it goes to the question earlier about how many votes have been cast. That may be just mail-in ballots, I'm not sure, but nonetheless, I recall it was a good turnout, but not a great turnout, it seemed to me, when I saw the mail-in here in Pima County. But enough of that, because I'm gonna try to be quick. The other thing is, I saw you at the rally on Friday with President Obama. I'm really glad that you got out and you get your face seen by such a large crowd. And I really appreciate your remarks there. And exposure is great. So thank you very much for all you're doing. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Larry
Bodine,
you have the last question.
All right.
That
Hey,
was a
Kirsten,
blast.
good to
I've
see
never
you.
had the opportunity to speak to 7,000 people. That was really fun. It was great. And what a great thing for President Obama to be coming to Tucson. That really shows how important this part of Arizona is.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should feel really empowered by the fact that he took time to address our community.
Okay, Larry, take her away.
Hey, Kirsten, big fan. I just drove down to the recorder's office with my ballot and my wife's ballot. So there's 2 votes for you that have already been logged. And wondered if you could say a few words about the border. You know, the Arizona Mirror has a great story online today saying that there is no border crisis. There's no immigration invasion. You know, fentanyl is not being brought in by immigrants. And immigrants are paying taxes. What would be 1 or 2 things you think you could do to heighten the security of the border?
Well, that's great. I mean, the numbers have, dropped significantly. As you said, the fentanyl that's coming in has been coming in actually through the ports of entry.
Right. By
And a
Americans.
lot of it has been coming in with US citizens driving trucks. But it would be important to have that fentanyl detection equipment in our ports of entry, so we could scan every truck. But we also know, it's not just a question of catching the fentanyl coming in, it's also making sure that we have the programs in the community so that we don't have the demand, that we're really helping people who have addiction issues and helping people not get addicted in the first place. So those are also very, very important issues. Absolutely, the border changes very quickly. I think the numbers are probably down a lot because of President Biden's executive order. As a result of that, you know, we still don't have, because of lack of congressional action, we don't have those asylum officers that would have been promised in that bipartisan bill. There's a lot of need. The other huge priority is, you know, our dreamers, and creating more legal pathways to citizenship. It's really been a real stranglehold in terms of immigration. So, and yet, you know, we are a nation of immigrants. That's been, you know, that's our community. That's a big, important part of our economy. And I want to make sure that there are more legal pathways, and that we, you know, get things actually on the right track.
Okay, well, again, Kirsten, we know you need to get going, but boy, let's give Kirsten
my
a
time is
big round
running
of
out.
applause
Okay.
for being with us today. You're awesome.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you all do. Thanks for what you can do to help out these next 15 days, and just very, very honored to be to have your support.
Hey everybody, it's Senator Mark Kelly. As all of you know, Arizona Democrats have had a lot of important wins over the last few years. We won 2 U.S. Senate races, and we delivered Arizona's electoral votes to President Biden and Vice President Harris. We elected Governor Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, and Attorney General Chris Mays. Now, those elections were close, and our victories mattered. Arizona Democrats from the federal to the local level have delivered real results for our state on critical issues like combating climate change, lowering prescription drug costs, protecting the right to vote, and preventing more restrictions on abortion access. The Democrats of Greater Tucson offers the opportunity to hear from elected officials and candidates about that important work and the issues that matter to them. That information will be invaluable as Arizonans head to the polls. So this election cycle, whether you're signing up to knock doors, make phone calls, or joining the Democrats of Greater Tucson to hear from and speak to Democrats in our area, please know that your voice matters and we need you on this team. Thank you.